I'm Colin Jones. I own Colin Davis Jones Studios. We're on 38th Street in the Garment District. We're a small costume shop that does pretty much anything that anyone wants to bring to us. So it's Broadway, off-Broadway, major dance companies, film, television, private clients. Kind of just runs the gamut of if it goes on a body, we'll do it. I grew up in what I call rural Pennsylvania, or Pennsyltucky, on almost the Ohio border. We grew up in our house in town. We also had a family farm on a dirt road, so very rural Pennsylvania. Went to school in Boston and been in New York ever since then. It started out mostly just being me working by myself, trying to grab whatever jobs that I could. And then a good friend who still works for me today, who I had overhired with other places, and he also worked at Juilliard with me, would come help me out when I needed some extra pair of hands. And then it all kind of started to become more and more from there. And then we decided that we needed to make the jump to the Garment District from Dumbo, really just to be in the midst of all of it and be considered more serious and all of those things. So we moved to the Garment District, and then started to get larger and larger jobs, and the shop just grew from there.
And how many employees do you have now?
I had 7 full-time people before the world ended. Most people came through like friends of friends, or knowing a person from this way, and so the shop is like grown organically in the same way that like the business itself has grown organically. Some people originally intended to be overhired for 2 weeks that end up have worked here for 4 years and things like that. And so I think it's like most costume shops becomes a family of people as well as a working environment, because we all spend so many hours together. We did take a shop retreat to my parents' farm, which was fun. So some of us, not the whole shop, didn't get to go, but everyone who wanted to drove across Pennsylvania and had a weekend in the country together, which was a lot of fun.
What makes you unique as a shop?
I think for some people and some designers we work with, it's just the fact that we're a younger shop of people, and so I think we have a younger aesthetic to some things, or maybe it's a more, as much as even if it's a period show, we try and do it period, there's going to be modern fashion influences in some of that, and some of what we do ends up being modern shows. We tend to do a lot of dance wear because I come from a dance background, so I've really enjoyed, we worked a lot with Martha Graham and Alvin, Ailey, and American Ballet Theater and New York City Ballet and San Francisco Ballet, Pilates, a lot of the major dance companies we really enjoy working with.
What were some of the shows you were working on as the shutdown was happening?
So this is from 6, for some of the band members of 6. This is a little adorable child's vest from the latest ABT show. Hamilton jackets in process as orders got canceled. This stuff was from Once Upon a One More Time, the new Britney Spears musical. Studio where most of the work all happens. Cutting tables, 2 different ironing tables. We all kind of tend to float around everywhere depending on what projects we have. We have quite a few industrial machines. We also like to use tabletop machines just because it makes the workspace more flexible. A lot of people wear a lot of different hats. I have one person who tends to just be a cutter. That's what he enjoys doing the most, and I try and keep people in their tasks that they enjoy doing the most, but we tend to, because sometimes it's making 88 of the same jacket, so we become more factory style, so it ends that way, or sometimes it's one-offs, and so we're all doing multiple different things. But yeah, we tend to wear it tends to be a lot of hats. Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is how many layers there are to making costumes happen. Because when I talk to the general public, it tends to be like, oh, so you design them, but my skill set is very different than designing clothes. It's my job to make the clothes that someone else has designed. But then they ask about hats, and nope, I don't do that. And they ask about makeup and wigs, and nope, I don't do that. And they ask about shoes or millinery or all of these things, and there's so many layers to what one person could even just be wearing on stage that I have part of that, but there's a lot of other bubbles that connect to make that one person look like that from head to toe.
The lead up to the shutdown? You mentioned that you're not working.
Yeah.
You're not open. Can you talk about that process for you and that day when you said, all right, we have to close?
Yeah, I think kind of for the whole world, it was one of those, we didn't know what the future held. And I think I personally thought it was going to be a short 2-week, 3-week thing. And so we came into the shop and I emailed everyone the night before saying, like, this is going to be your last day in here, you know, and I set everyone up with some projects to take home as much as they could, depending on what their home situation was, just to keep people working and on payroll as much as possible. And then we also started getting emails from people saying, like, we're not going forward with projects and all of that. And so I gave people as much notice and as much work as they could take home with them. And it was a very weird thing just because there was a lot of unknowns for everyone in their personal lives and in work lives. And so it was, I think we were all just kind of confused and baffled and awkwardly or weirdly said goodbye to each other because it was like, I guess I'll see you in 2 weeks-ish, or we didn't know what the future held from there. For me, one of the hardest things is our work family has become a family, and so it's hard as a business owner to know that you can't give work to these people that you promised work to. And so it's been hard to stay in contact with everyone and make sure everyone is still safe and okay, but you can't offer them work or offer them anything other than moral support, really. I already know 2 of my 7 people have moved out of state. So one person has moved back to Colorado, another person has moved back to Pittsburgh, because their leases on their apartments were coming up in the city, and it was just, how can I stay here with who knows what future?
Talk to me about how you're doing and what has happened since July.
Yeah, so we've been kind of fortunate and gotten some work in. And so we've gotten a few TV shows that we've gotten a few trickling things in. We actually did a new ballet for San Francisco Ballet. So we've been fortunate to get a little bit of work in. It's nowhere near the amount of work that we would have had previous to COVID. It has been much, much slower than any of our previous years. But we've just been trying to plug forward and keep as hopeful as we possibly can.
Is work continuing to trickle in?
Especially right now because of like the holiday season, it really has trickled off to nothing because the few TV shows that we had been working on have taken like a holiday hiatus, nowhere near any amount of work to like keep the doors open, really. So with our first round, I did put in an application for relief fund through the CIC.
Well, with that, are you predicting or assuming or hopeful that that is going to be kind of your lifeline to get you through until the vaccine becomes a normal part of society and we can move about again?
Definitely a big help, no matter what, however much money it is, because vaccines are coming and all of that. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, but our industry is the last one that's going to come back. Even when we do quote unquote reopen, for all of our industry, there's not a big red button that says go, and we all are back to what it was before. So I'm very hopeful and thankful that vaccines are happening and there is that light, but there's a giant ecosystem that we're an integral part of, but that whole ecosystem has to slowly get itself back working again. There is light there and I am hopeful, but there's still a lot of unknowns in terms of how quickly and how easily and how efficiently things are going to really come back for us in our industry.